What if I told you, if you're a small company, it's easier to raise $10 million, and if you're a big company, part of the reason why I say this is Skype is a juggernaut company that is now shut down, and it just goes to show that no matter how large you are, you don't become immune to failing. In times of change, we have AI, tariffs, recession, so many things are going on right now. And clearly, there are so many changes and things that you need to adapt to stay in business. If you want to raise money, create your business, scale your business, there are so many things that you have to keep a track of when things change so quickly. So it's kind of like a giant cruise ship. If you're the Titanic and you're trying to turn your giant cruise ship so you can follow the trends, the new currents of the trends, it's very hard to steer that new cruise ship. But if you're somebody who's a small speedboat, you're able to adjust, pivot, and adapt really quickly. And this is why tons of companies, especially during the pandemic, have been able to pivot and make money and grow and raise millions of dollars. Whereas the big companies, they were too stuck on tradition, they couldn't pivot, they couldn't innovate fast enough, and they ended up dying and crashed into the proverbial iceberg. So I'm gonna walk through a few examples, and by the end of the video, you'll be fully convinced that the people that we've spoken to were able to raise tens of millions of dollars through our services, our systems, and our coaching and processes. So ultimately, on the screenshot, you see examples of a few people that have raised millions of dollars. And some of the strategies that are needed, even though that they're small people, it's really key to learn that the bigger you are, the harder it is to change. When you have a lot of investors that are expecting you to do something, to commit to something, to stick to a written plan, and to follow the things that you've done in the past, it makes it hard for you to innovate and adapt, because the person that you were known for being is the same person that will prevent you, and the same reputation that will prevent you from changing. So yes, for every side of every side of anything, there's always like a dark side. So while so many people are working so hard to get a track record in raising money so that people trust them and people work with them, the downside is when you have that track record, it's really hard to change your reputation and to do anything else. Just try going on a call with an institutional investor. You know, it's really easy to find an institutional investor and talk to them. And just from going on a call with an institutional investor, you'll find that they're very specific in the things that they can and can't do. So because they focus so tightly on one thing, they're unable to adapt to other things. So if you're in a position, and this brings me to the second point, if you're in a position where you see an opportunity to invest into a new type of asset class, a new type of strategy, a new type of undervalued business strategy like they're looking to acquire. For example, look at opportunities now. Tariffs have been announced. People are funding different types of deals. For example, deals that are probably undervalued due to tariffs, companies that have used AI as a service, anything that's related to a trend that is emerging. If you're somebody that's taking advantage of this, then you can put yourself in a position to have asymmetric gain, big gains, while everybody relies on the safe, proven path that has worked for so long. So because the policies of big funds, big companies that invest and buy and do business with sectors, because their investors and stakeholders are used to them doing the same thing, it'll be harder for them to pivot and to innovate, to change. This is exactly why Blockbuster went bankrupt while Netflix emerged, because Netflix made an early bet on the internet's taking over, and Blockbuster was too cocky to adapt. And because of this story time and time again of big old predecessor David and Goliath setup, the one that innovates the fastest usually is the one that wins. And usually it's not about the species that's the strongest. It's about the species that is more willing to adapt to their environment. That's the one that wins. And that being said, just because if you're watching this video, if you're somebody who's a small deal maker or you're an aspiring deal maker that hasn't done a deal yet, the best way to get started is to look at what's already working, copy it, ethically and compliantly, of course, and then to make sure that what you're doing is something that is ideally a better version of it, either faster, better, cheaper. And use emerging trends to have a way to differentiate yourself from it. Some ways to look at trends, you can use Google Trends, you can use Gemini, you can use ChatGPT, look at emerging trends, and find ways to layer on existing trends onto something that's currently working, whether it's a business buyout strategy, whether it's a real estate investment strategy, whether it's a fix and flip strategy. So find a way to add on something that's emerging onto that strategy so that you can have like a differentiated way to adapt to the market in a quicker way than your competitors. When I got started, the last story is when I got started in assisting people in brokering debt transactions through a registered brokerage for debt. When we got started in everything, even before that, investment banking things, the first way was really I went into crypto because nobody was doing crypto because it was scary. And then now it's mainstream. So before, when it was scary, I went into it. This is before 2017. And because I went into it, that's when I carved out a niche for myself of those who were able and willing to do the things that most people weren't. And so there was a period of arbitrage. And usually whenever there's an innovation, there's a period of arbitrage where you can jump in the trend early. And if you jump in the trend early, that's usually when you have a sort of a gain. It's hard to explain, sort of a strategic advantage. And you have to wait until the rest of the market catches up because most people don't adapt to trends very quickly. And because it did, I then branched out to a broader industry. But if I had not carved out a niche in an emerging market that was growing, then you put yourself in a position where you're a Blockbuster or a newspaper or a Skype. The idea is, according to Richard Koch, the guy who came up with the principle of he works at Boston Consulting Group and I believe another consulting firm. He came up with an idea called the STAR principle. Basically, it's being the number one in an industry that's growing pretty fast. I think he said 20% a year. I can't remember how fast, but yeah, the idea is that you have to be in an industry that's growing. Because if the industry is not growing, then by default you're shrinking. So if you do nothing to improve your business, but you're in a business industry that's growing, you're just going to catch the headwinds of the business that's growing, and you'll benefit as a byproduct. So you might as well get yourself in a business that's growing, because just by being there and by existing and by surviving in a business that's niche that's growing, you're going to get gains regardless. And the last thing is that being at the top of that means that you're the best. Being the top in a small industry or a shrinking industry is one thing, but being near the top of an industry that's growing, that's the ultimate. And if you'd like to be the top of your industry, you want to jump into raising capital, owning business with other people's money. That's one solid way. There are many other ways as well, such as growing your business, but this is something that you'd like to do. Book a call at raise.com where I or one of my team members will go through, see what we can do for you, and see if we can make it happen. So we'll see you in the next video.